semester is a little different from what it was on your schedule. It's all the same. I just didn't remember what I told her, so this is what I called it. It all means kind of the same thing. So some people were confused the last session, so I felt like I needed to throw that disclaimer out there. So today we're going to talk about how you can incorporate some digital content, digital media into your lessons, and how some small changes sometimes bring some big impact. So my name is Stacy Harvey. I'm a teacher at Kenwood. I've taught 4th grade, 5th grade, and I'm moving to 2nd. So I kind of just move around, it's fun. And I've taught 6th grade for 5 years previous at another district. So some of our stuff that I'm going to show you are mainly geared towards those older students, but I know it'll work in younger students. I've seen other teachers use it, and then I will be using it next year. And kind of seeing my classroom is 1-to-1, so no matter what grade level I am, they kind of come with me. So we're going to be 1-to-1 2nd grade next year, so that might be cool to see what things I can get them creating. So that's my Twitter and my email, so if you ever have questions and I don't get to them. There's a lot in this presentation, and I'm going to tell you, don't let that stress you out. Think about maybe picking one thing and working on it next year, or taking all of them. But if you are overwhelmed with that, I'm just trying to show you a bunch of different ideas, and you can pick what's going to work best for your classroom, what's going to work best for the way you teach, what's going to work best for your students. Some of them are about the same, they're just little differences, so don't feel like you are getting way too much information all at one time and you need it to slow down. And if you want me to, I can email you the slides and you can go through it and then pull those things if you're not getting your notes done. Good morning, Mr. Wolf. Okay, so the reason a lot of us have outdated textbooks. I know the elementary got new math, we got new social studies, but our science are horrendous. At the secondary levels, I don't know what your textbooks look like. I don't know how new they are. But even when I taught 6th grade, I was teaching out of 10-year-old social studies books, which is hard to do, because especially when you're teaching U.S. history, a lot of things are not the same towards the end, where it just stops and they're missing so many years of what is actually happening. So what do you do with outdated textbooks? Well, we need to at times move away from the textbooks. We can't fully rely on them all the time, especially if they're outdated for science things. I hate teaching science about different forms of energy, and they only talk about solar energy, when now we have nuclear and all this other stuff that we could be talking about, but then I had to find other resources. So do that, and then incorporate it into them. So one of our textbooks looks like this. Does everybody know what this thing is up in the corner? It's a QR code. If you don't know what it is, we're going to be creating some of them today and talking about them. But, so, I didn't do anything with the textbook. This is an old math book, and we just put a QR code in it. And then I'll talk to you about how that updated the textbook a little bit for those students or made things a little easier. So sometimes it's hard to embrace change. I don't love embracing change very often. There's some things I love to change, and I'm running around and trying to change a lot of things, and other things I'm not willing to change so quickly. And we're all like that at some point on some things. But like I said, a small change might give you big results. So even if you walk away, even from this whole day, I mean, you're going to 4 different sessions, you walk away with one thing you want to change, your whole next year might be totally different based on that one thing. So don't get overwhelmed. Anytime I'm at a technology conference and there's others that move a lot faster, or you have 6 or 7 sessions in a day and you just walk away oh, my mind is overwhelmed, or going to the big national ones, ISTE, it's 4 days of jam-packed things. There's times you just have to take a break and process all that you're learning. But even at those, if I can walk away with one thing I want to try the next year, I feel like I've won something. Yes, you're getting a lot of information, but walk away with one thing you can change and make a small change. And then maybe halfway through the year, you're like, oh, there's that other thing I can incorporate now because I'm comfortable with it. I'm not asking you to change everything at all once, but little steps at a time. The reason is because our students have grown up way differently than I did, than you did. Even things are different. They're 24/7 access to their phones, to iPods, to the internet. They're infiltrated with media at different times, whether it's social media and things like that. So how can we take that and harness it into our classroom and make sure they're getting the social emotional connection that they might be missing because of that screen time? And we're working on our assessments and exiting and doing a lot more with that, and these high-stake assessments with them. And now kindergartners are expected to take the NWEA and have computer skills, and how do we embrace all of that and help our students in the process? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the SAMR model, which is using technology in the classroom. So you start on the bottom, it's called substitution, and you're just replacing something with technology. So instead of writing a paper, you're going to type it. So you're doing the same thing, you're just using technology instead of a pen and paper, which technically a pen is technology. But you're going to use a different piece of, and then you're going to move up to augmentation. The tech acts as a direct tool, substitute with functional improvement. So with that word processor, you now have spell check. You now have formatting tools. So it's the same thing, but you have a little more that you wouldn't have just writing it on a paper. And then we see a dotted line. And we're trying to push as a district, even getting people to teach above the line. But it starts with substitution. And even those teachers who are doing a lot more teaching above the line, at times are just substituting some things. Like there's things that you just substitute. You're not always going to be at the top level, but it's just a way to start thinking, like, okay, well, let me start first with getting them to type their papers. Then let me start with making them using spell check and using these formatting tools. And then you're going to work your way up to modification. So tech allows for significant task redesign. So in Google Docs, now they're sharing it with their peers, and you have that collaboration of the chat going on the side of students giving each other feedback on their papers. Right then and there, or they're all typing the same paper at the same time. So they can be collaborating in a way that was never allowed to before. And then your redefinition, the tech allows for the creation of a new task. So instead of writing paper, you're going to make a video project, which that was not allowed to before unless you're throwing technology into it. So you're just moving above and trying to get higher on the line. And that's why we talk about teaching above the line and trying to get up here with a couple lessons a year. I'm not saying every single lesson is going to be amazing and up there. But as you get more comfortable with it, more ideas will come to you. And not every lesson involves technology every single day, every minute of the day. But the more you're getting used to it, the more you're checking out Chromebook cards. If you're working in one of the high schools, that's one-to-one, or taking your kids to the computer lab. These are things that you can be doing more than just, you might start with the substitution of typing their papers, but now they need to be sharing it with their friends and getting them to edit it with them and work on things together and collaborate. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is some detailed tutorials. What's the purpose of a detailed tutorial? We've all had that time where we have given directions, very thorough directions. You might have asked questions through our directions. And then you finish and people are starting and you have like those two kids who are like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And you just, like really? So your detailed tutorials, there's a couple of different ones you can make. So a paper detailed tutorial would be something like this. So it's step-by-step instructions with some screenshots of the exact things I want you to do. I like to make these for even my teachers as I'm sending out instructions on how to do something, how to start something. A lot of people are visual learners. This is something they can print out and then have with them and go step by step and like. So I could say add place mark, but if you don't know what that looks like, but now that I've given you this picture, you're going to find that on your screen. It helps a little bit. You have the students who then might be 2 steps behind because their internet wasn't connecting, or they were playing around and didn't get logged in right away. So you don't have to wait and then have the kids trying to work ahead and doing it wrong. Everybody can work at their own pace. Here's some detailed instructions, but it's not even just for your classroom. As a teacher, you can use this to help other people with. It doesn't have to be as detailed, but I think the more pictures and arrows you have, it helps others understand exactly what you're doing. I'm trying to make more and more for my teachers who need that extra support for the technology that they can go back and check it. Or go back and how do I make that Google Doc? Or how do I share it? And here's that they maybe print out and keep it somewhere where they know where it is. So a detailed tutorial could look like this. If you're on a Windows, if you go to the window I have down here and search snip, you have your snipping tool, which is what I use on the desktop to get pieces. So this shows up, and you have this cursor now that looks like a plus sign, and you can drag it to exactly what you want them to capture. So maybe I just want this part. So now I have a picture up here that I can insert to my website or my Google Doc or my Microsoft Word document when I'm making this. And now I can show people exactly what I want them to do if I'm using that piece. So you can just get pieces of that. If you're on your Chromebook, you can download an extension called Snagit. And it does the same thing. Snagit has a couple more features. You can do like a full screenshot. You can do a screencast where you're video recording it while you're doing it and talking through it. So some people like that better. So a video tutorial would be like using a screencast. So you're going to record everything that's going on your screen. On the Chromebook, I would use Snagit. I've always used Smart Notebook Recorder just because I've always had a smart notebook because I've had a smart board. If you don't, you can Google free screencast for just Microsoft that you can download and do the same thing. Yes.
What is Snagit? Is it S-N-A-G-I-T? Is it one word? Is that?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, one word. Snagit, one word.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure. So here's a tutorial that a coworker made for her class.
Hi class, this is Miss Walsh, and today I'm going to show you how to create a blog using blogster.com. The first thing you're going to do is click on the link that I've put on Edmodo that says Blogster.edu. That is going to bring you to the website. Then the first thing you're going to do is click on Login in the top right corner. Use the login information that I've given you. It is on your password sheet. Once you are...
Okay, so she goes out, obviously it's a 10-minute video. There's different pieces. The one nice thing about video is if I'm a student though and my computer's slowing down or I did something wrong, I can go back and rewatch it or get the directions again or slow it down to my pace or do it individually and not have to keep up with the rest of the classroom or work faster if I need to work faster. So those video things, she taught a technology class for junior hires, so a lot of her tutorials were done on video so that they can start working on their own projects at their own pace and get going. I also like videos though if they're going to work on something at home that they can then be watching at home, and if I'm not there to give the exact instructions, like what am I supposed to click next, they're not worrying about missing something because they have that video or they had that paper tutorial. So the next thing I want to talk about is those QR codes. So a QR code is right here. You can create them free. So I'm going to talk about the different ways to create them. On here, this QR code, if it was scanned, which I'll scan it, and I mean it'll be on my phone, so you're just going to have to listen quietly. So I'm just going to pull it up. It brings up my camera, connects to this YouTube video that I created about subtracting integers. If you've ever taught subtracting integers, it really makes you want to poke your eyes out because children don't understand it. And it's rough, and this is like a 4-day lesson that after day 2, people weren't understanding it. And I pulled in my dad, who taught for 33 years, to reteach it a different way. And then I made a video the same exact way I'd been teaching it, and like the rest of them were like, oh, it makes sense now. Really does. But if they're at home and trying to do their homework and didn't take good notes, or they're trying to get help from their parents, or somebody else, now that you have my direct instruction, it's like a 5-minute video. I don't think like your tutorial should be much longer than that because you're going to lose your attention span. But I went over the notes, I talked about the rules, I had everything pre-done in my smart notebook, and then I just recorded the screens as I went through it and talked about it and did some examples. So that's another good thing. That would be something that I would put on a homework piece of paper. That would be something that I would maybe send home in a parent newsletter. Especially teaching 4th and 5th grade the last couple years, I realized the parents don't always understand all the different algorithms that we teach them for multiplication or division, or they're very foreign to somebody. I didn't know them until I started teaching them. So if you're having a parent who doesn't get it and wants to just teach them a different way, they're never really learning that algorithm. So you can make your video, send it home in your parent newsletter. Now your parents have somewhere to go to. There's free apps to use to scan them. So you just need a device, so a phone, a tablet, and the Chromebooks have an extension that will scan them too. So if they're printed out, I've had my kids in a center just hold it up and then watch the video there. So that's another good thing to use it. So how to make a QR code. So one of the apps for Android and Apple would be OptiScan. I like it because it's free. There's tons of QR code reader apps out there. They're not all free, and there's no reason for you to have to pay for it. So whether it's your own device, a school device, OptiScan is the one I would go to. You can also create QR codes on that app. Not the easiest, but something you can do. And then if you're going to do it from your desktop, to create them, I would go to qrstuff.com. qrstuff.com, and then it brings you through step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is your QR code. So the first option, number 1, you have your data type, and you need to pick the correct one. So if you're taking a URL, one way that I use my QR codes is my classroom website. I make a QR code for it and have it posted outside my classroom all school year. So parents either coming to back to school night, I direct them to scan it, we talk about QR codes. So then they always have like where I update my homework every night, they have my newsletters and stuff like that. They scan it that first night and bookmark it in their phone. It's not something they're going to forget about how to find it. So that's one easy way. I put that also on the back to school night handout. So
is that like the doorway to everything that you link to it?
yes. So like if I was going to link so this is going to be the high school homepage just because we're at one. But I'll copy that URL and go to here, and it's on URL, so I'll just paste it in here. And this QR code, you can change your background, so now it's purple if I really wanted it to be, or the color, your school color if you want. So now you have your QR code, you can download it, and anytime somebody uses a QR code scanner, it'll bring me right to that website that I connected it to. Or
So you always use the same one then, or does the QR code change then every time you do something like that?
so my website, which is a Google site that I've had the last 3 years, it's always the same. So whenever I update my website, it doesn't change the QR code. So I made it, I printed it out once, I saved it in my desktop, and I left it outside my room.
So is that what that means when it says static, it keeps it as the same one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, this would be if you're using the shortener for a different, so not a full-on URL. So if you're going to a YouTube video, it's a whole different input because you're using different pieces of it. You can't just take the YouTube URL because there's pieces you need to delete. You can do an image file, and when you scan it, that image pops up on your phone. You can do text. I type it in, that text will pop up on your phone. I mean, you can, all of this stuff you can download, or decide, but those are the ones I would use the most. The URL, the image, the text, and the YouTube video. Because you can even do like a scavenger hunt in your classroom, you find it and they do it. They use, 5 years ago QR codes were kind of like the big thing, they kind of died out. So stores were using them in their windows to link you to pieces of their advertisement or whatever they wanted you to, or to their website. Some people had put them on gravestones, and you could like hear about that person's life. There was some, I would say like 4 or 5 years ago, they were like this new hot thing, and then they kind of died a little bit, but I think they still have a lot of use inside your classrooms. And once I have it made, I just download it. It becomes like a PNG file, which is an image file. You save it to your computer, and you can put it into another document. You can print it out. You can do what you need to do with it for whatever use you need.
Say that again. So if we create it on our Chromebook, it'll be downloaded onto here.
You create it on your Chromebook and you save it,
Uh-huh.
then it'll be in your files on your Chromebook.
And I can just put it into my newsletter.
Yep, just like you would a normal image
Okay.
that you would upload into your newsletter.
So once you create an account into qrstuff.com, it's always going to go to your same one if you want it to.
So, I don't know how they make them, but they're very complicated. They're lines and whatnot, just like a barcode. So you have infinite amount of uses for it, and as long as you create it and you don't change that same QR code, unless the link is broken or is not really a usable link anymore, is always going to go to what it was originally told to go to.
So you created an account with QR stuff?
I never have. I just use their free version. So I just save them into a folder on my desktop or into a folder. So then when I download the QR code, I would change the name of it to website QR code or QR code for subtracting integers or that. So then I always have it. So there's also times that I have like iPod touches in my classroom. So then I might have it at a center with one iPod. That if you needed to review that, well, now you have that tutorial video right there. So just scan the QR code and you can rewatch the video. Which for students I don't think is a big of a deal because they're used to the smaller screens and whatnot. Sometimes it was a little longer for me to get used to like watching something on a screen like that. But then they can also share it with a friend that two of them can sit around and look at it and review it. And you don't have to be at that center giving their instructions or helping explain it.
And they can scan it, you said with their Chromebooks?
So if you are familiar with your Chromebook and you go to the Chrome store, which mine is digit. So if you go to the little magnifying glass in the bottom left-hand corner, that'll bring you to all your apps. And if you go to the web store, which is in there, it will let you find one. If you type in QR, I'll find the exact name of it in just a second.
Most of them should have it already on there.
You have to download it, I think. Maybe, unless Dan did a push, which I think you might have. So like if you want it for your whole building, something like that, because I was one-to-one, I just had my students like, day 3, we're all gonna like go to the web store together, we're all gonna find this app, we're all gonna add it to our thing, which I do with any of the extensions I want them to use, but they can be pushed out to carts or buildings, and all of the carts in that building, if you ask Dan Lisa. So if you look it up, it's Scan QR, it's called Scan QR, and then you get this little box for your camera and you hold it in front of it and it'll scan it just like your phone does, and you can get to the link, you can get to the text, you can get to the image just there. So if you have a classroom set or you're 5 or 4, it's something that they can do on their own in that center.
Does it matter if we get the app or the extension?
It's going to be an extension. No, it's going to be an app. So that it'll always be in your magnifying glass search as one of the apps in there. There's other free ones out there. QR stuff is one of my favorite generators because it's easy to use. You might find one different if you can Google QR code generator. Find one that works for you. So the next thing I want to talk about is Animoto. And this is where you can create a 30-second video. Great for an anticipatory set. It gets students excited about your lesson. It gets them introducing a new unit that's coming up. I mean, you can use it for a lot of different things, but if you're going to use it as a teacher, this is one thing you can do. So, Animoto.com, I don't pay for anything, so a lot of these things might have paid accounts that I refuse to use. I'll just use their free version. So like I said, in your free version, you get 30 seconds. So I used to read the book Among the Hidden, and I would do a book box where I would bring in like 5 or 6 things about the book, and then the first day we would pull them out and talk about it, and maybe predict what it would have to do with the book and how they all go together. Then I made a video. does move quickly, then we start talking about maybe what they have put together, what words did you see on there, what stood out to you. And that's something that you can use to create for different lessons. It's very simple. So it's animoto.com, and you can create an account. And once you have your account set up, if you go to create, you get to pick your video style, which was like your background stuff.
It says start your trial. We don't want to do that.
You can, because you'll have a trial, and you don't have to put any information for billing, so it's not like Phil. So you can play around with it and see, because they're going to want to try and get you to buy.
When the trial ends, whatever.
I think you still have your free account. Because on the not free account, you get longer videos, you can set up more than one account, stuff like that. This limits it a little bit, but not enough to say it's not worth it. So you're in here, you have your style going, you can add a logo if you want. You're going to add pictures, so you're just going to pull them in. Like I said, it's about 30 seconds, so the more pictures you have, the quicker they're on the screen. So you have to really think about what's important to whatever you're showing them, and then add text. And like your title is 40 characters and your subtitle is 50. So again, it's not a ton of text going on up there. Spaces count as a character over there, so you really have to think about what's important. So then an extension of this is I've used it for projects before, where students might make a little blurb about a book they read. So like a quick preview, they have to find important pictures, I'd say maybe no more than 5, and they have to think about some important words or text that they would put in there to present to their classmates about their video. So for that, I would just use my school email and a generic password that everybody might know, so then they can just go into that account. Because as students, they're not going to sign up for their own account in the elementary grades because of not having the access to email, or they shouldn't because they're under 13. So we do things kind of under the umbrella of my account. And then you can pick the music, and they give you options for music that they have rights to, so you're not doing anything that you don't have rights to, which with digital citizenship we need to really push with our students. And then you create it. As you see, we have 30 seconds, and it goes by very quickly with as many, like 3 or 4 pictures at times. You're like, oh, no, my time's gone. So you really have to think what's important for them to see. But it's a fun way to start your lessons at time. And it might be different if you've never done something like that with your students to really capture their attention onto what's going on. So another 2 things I'm going to talk about is Voki and Blaberize. Nancy, Batliner next door, is doing a whole presentation on Voki, and it has a lot of cool new features that I don't know much about right now. I haven't dug into a lot in the last month when they came out. So I think her next presentation is about Voki. If you don't know where else you're going, or if you don't like your other session that you picked, go see her. So I'll give you a brief update about it. Voki and Blaberize are both taking a picture or an avatar and getting them to speak. So I've already logged in, and I have my Voki, which have been the ones I've made before.
The turkey is one of the most famous birds in North America. In fact, Benjamin Franklin wanted to make the wild turkey, not the bald eagle, the national bird of the United States. The turkey's popularity comes from the American people's love of eating the bird for special occasions like Thanksgiving and Christmas. The wild turkey we usually see in photos or pictures is not the same as the domestic turkey that we serve at Thanksgiving.
Okay, so that's a little insight on it. So if you're creating a Voki, with Voki you have to use their avatars, so their images that they have. They have plenty of them on the free version. So you would go up here, customize your character. You can pick a different male, female, all. You have lots of different categories to pick from. You can scroll down and see what's in there. So maybe you're doing something for pumpkins or a jack-o'-lantern thing, and you kind of pull him out. You can change your background. can type it in, which is what I did with that turkey. So then it was a computerized voice. You type all your text in here. And then you can pick an accent. You can pick what voice you like. Then you can try it out.
Hi, I'm a pumpkin.
And then you see if you like it or not, and then you can publish it, which means you can make it private to just your account, or when you publish it, you can make it public so other people can search for it and use it for things. And then you're done. So those are fun ways to introduce a lesson too. If you're going to talk about some historical presidents, why not find one of the presidents in there and have him give a little beginning of what you're doing. You can record your own voice. So if you are on your Chromebook, because they have the microphones in them, you can record it there. On the new Voki app, which Nancy would go into more, you can record it right off your phone. It's an app now, so there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. You can embed that into your presentation. You're doing a Promethean board presentation, a Google Slides, anything like that. You can get them in there and have them talk right from there. So it's another way to get the kids interested. If you're going to do a center thing, you can, for older students, even something on their own, it could be a part of Google Classroom. It's something they watch on their own, take notes on, ask questions. It gets them thinking about things. So that's another little thing. Again, your students can also do their own. So maybe they researched animals, and you had them find the animal and then get some facts about it for younger students. Older students could do a quick word about a historical figure that they found. So that's Voki.com, yes.
If you're gonna do it in classroom, can you download it? How would you put it into your?
So when you publish it, so you have all these different ways you can get your links. So you can put it right in your Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Wordle, Blogger, or you can just get the link for it and then put it in the classroom. So then you would just upload it as that link like you would in anything else in classroom. So then we also have Blabberize, which I think is a little more entertaining. Because Blabberize lets you take a picture that you found. You can Google image search a picture. You can get your own picture from that you're going to either scan it or you take it on your mobile device and you can upload it. You can grab some STI pictures. And you can have a lot of fun with it, I'm just saying. So you pull in your picture and you cut out the mouth and then you record. The one thing with Blabberize is you cannot type to text. So everything you have to do on Blabberize, you have to record it yourself. But it's also funny, like me, I'm talking like Abe Lincoln.
Hi, my name is Abraham Lincoln. You might have heard about me or seen me on the penny, but there are a few things you do not know about me. I was the tallest president, and I was the first president to have a beard. Like it? I almost died when I was kicked in the head by a horse in 1818. And I was the president to proclaim Thanksgiving Day to be a national holiday. Gotta love the turkey.
So there's Abe Lincoln. Obviously that's my voice. So I used that for an example of a project that my 6th graders were going to do because they all had a historical figure. They had to get some obscure facts. We were doing this whole project. This is one piece of it. But it's also funny that their teacher is speaking, but it's Abe Lincoln. You know, it kind of throws some students off. They didn't know what to think of that. And so when you go to Make, you can also browse. There's a lot of already well done Blabberize out here. You can look up animals, and there's a lot of like even kindergartners speaking with the voice about a little research project they did about their animal. So it's very kid friendly for a lot of different age groups. Older students have fun with it. So if you go to your Make, you then just pull in a picture that you've already downloaded to your computer. So if you did a Google image search, you would just save your image as, save it wherever, and pull it in. Then it pops up with the pieces of the mouth, and you just shrink it in to be around the area where that person's mouth is, and then you record. And then it automatically opens it when it needs to open it. So it's easy, it's fun, and then Again, you can share it and you can get your URL for it. So the same thing, if you're going to want to put it somewhere, you can get that URL and embed it into things that you want it to. It also gives you an embed code, and if you're worked with making your own website, you know, if you can put that embed code in there, it'll pop up on that website as its own thing and play from there. So it's being kind of slow right now, but that's what Blabberize is. Students accessing content. I've already talked about it a little bit in here of different ways. One way is Edmodo. I used that before Google Classroom came out. It was a way for students to be able to access all the links I had. They just had one login and I would put everything up there. They would turn in homework there. They would access some of these videos that I would want them to watch on their own. But now we have Google Apps for education, which gives us Google Classroom. Does anyone here use Google Classroom? If you don't, I would really suggest you look into it no matter what you do, whatever age level you teach. If you're just an instructional coach, it keeps things easily accessible to your students. So I'm already open in Google Classroom. So it's at classroom.google.com. Your students have a different look on it. Google Classroom, you can only invite people who have our domain name. So if you're not a School City of Hammond domain name, so either teacher or staff-wise, which is at hammond.k12.indiana.us, or the students at schk12.us. If you don't have that domain name, you can't join one of the classrooms that you create, so it's not like they're handing it out a class code. If you want to create a classroom, you go to the plus, hit create. The students on their end only have join. They don't have a create class, so that's not something they're making their own classes and doing their own thing. Name it, section. So if you're teaching a secondary, you can have all of your periods in different classrooms, so you can send out things to different groups of students. I just create a new classroom every year. All of the ones without a picture are mine. The pictures are different classrooms that I've joined in. So if you've ever had Alicia out to your building to do some PD, she usually does it in Google Classroom, so you have all of her stuff right there. In Google Classroom, this was my classroom from this year. You have a code, which is over here. That's my class code. So then the first week or two of school, I would throw it up on the board and tell kids, go to classroom.google.com. If they're on the Chromebooks, it's easy because it's in that folder drop down on the left-hand side once you open up Google. And then we would say, join a class, and then we'd all join the class together. And I could see that they joined it. So then that was done. And anytime they were working on reading or math centers, and I wanted them to do something on their Chromebooks, I would say the directions are in Google Classroom. So I'd upload everything they needed to there. And everything new is always at the top. So you can make an announcement. You can create an assignment in here where they'll submit their assignment through here. It works with Google Docs. It works with Google Drive and all of that stuff, which is nice. So really trying to incorporate that in our classrooms. It helps things like that. I would see like media specialists maybe even having projections for the day. Like, so you all come to the computer lab, all right, get into Google Classroom, and that's what this grade level is doing, or this is what this grade level is doing. It makes things easier. I'm not worried about little kids typing links wrong, which happens a lot, and then it takes forever trying to fix things for everybody. They're just clicking and moving on. So Google Classroom, if you have not been using it, I would really think about either talking to somebody in your building who uses it to get you started, watching some tutorials online, having Alicia come out and do a PD for your building. I mean, that could be a whole hour PD on that alone, on what to do with it. But it's one way for students to access any of the content you're making. I also use my website, not as much this last year as I have in the past, but with even a link on my website for all of my tutorial videos or for all of that. It's another way that students then know how to do it. They know how to get on it at home. They can't say they didn't have access or couldn't remember something when you have all these different options for them to get to. So that leads me to the end. Any questions? I do have one more thing that I forgot about that we didn't get to last time. But it's also, there's a lot of things out there on YouTube. Does anybody have like a funny YouTube video that they use for certain things? Here's one of the 5 themes of geography. It's really cheesy, but they like it.
1,
2, 3,
4. 5 themes of geography. We got 5 themes of geography. Let's say 5 themes of geography. We
kids are singing in the hallway, they're asking to play it again. Another one I used this year was the tour of the states.
Actually, I'm afraid to fly, so I think I'll take the train. Let's go, go, go! Going to Trenton, New Jersey, Frankfurt, Kentucky.
So they go through all their capitals and gives them, like, they're seeing that too often. And remember, they're kind of cheesy, but you can usually find something that's funny and sticks in people's heads. There's a camel one for animal adaptation. And, like, I've had that song in my head ever since I taught it. I never watched it once, like, 6 years ago. But they're cheesy, they're funny, but it's not something I had to create. But it's something that sticks with the kids in their head. So if you're not musically inclined, find out what you can, or get your music teacher to help you write some songs and do stuff. There's some teachers that do their own math raps and such like that. That will probably never be me. But I don't mind using their stuff that they put out there for me to use, or asking my students to come up with something to help them remember it too. So then that's something that I want to remember. I would post that on my website or put that in Google Classroom so they can also watch it at home or laugh about it or in the time that they have. Now we're for real. Any questions? Comments? Something I need to go back to? You guys are a quiet group. The last one kept me going.
Okay, real quick,
Yeah.
the QR code. So
Yes.
you did, so you need 2 apps, one to create it and one to scan it, correct?
So this is the one I use because for me it's easier to work on my desktop to create it, just because I am more comfortable there, or like my Chromebook. So yes, QR stuff would be where I would use to create it. To scan, then you're going to have something else to scan it. I never found one that scanned very well on like a Windows, even with a webcam, but the Chromebook one works perfectly. So I mean, on the Chromebook, yeah, I would use the scan QR to scan it.
You can use the Chromebook to scan it?
Okay.
That was the other.
And the OptiScan, which is that app I talked to you about, you can create them on that app. Just like it's just not something I'm super comfortable with, going back and forth between all the different things, so I'd rather create it here. But you can create it in the app on OptiScan, which is that free app that I told you about.
So when you create it and print it out to like put at a station or something, is there like a little heading on it so you know what it's for?
No, but so if I'm gonna
all mixed up.
Yeah, if I'm gonna create it, well, then there's times I have to rescan them, and I find like a year later, like what is this one? A lot of times when I print it out, I'll put it into a Word document, so like I'll upload the image, so then I can write my own heading with it. So then if I find it, I should know what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or if you're gonna write on the back, maybe. Because then I might, if I'm gonna laminate it so I have it for a while, that's something I wanna know what it is. So then, yeah, there's also other, then you always have it. I've had students use the OptiScan on the like iPod touches to create their little messages to each other, and then like they'll have it up and somebody else will scan it. So I think it's fun to be able to. But so it's something easy, but you can use it for a lot of different things in your classroom. So you're free if you don't have questions. If you have questions later, feel free to email me.